In this video, we're going to show you how to flash the ImageRunner 1750 series machines. These machines are different than most of the other ImageRunners because it uses something called the user support tool instead of the server support tool that most of us are used to. The first thing we're going to need to do is to go onto eSupport and download the system software. I've already downloaded and I have it right here on my desktop. And to begin, I'm just going to first unzip it. I'm going to double click on the icon. Depending on your security settings or the version of Windows you're using, you may get this dialog box that gives you a warning message. If you do, just click on Run, and now it brings up the WinZip self-extractor. I'm going to unzip this to the default location, which is my C drive, Canon file folder, SST system software folder, UST files. So I'm going to click Unzip, and it unzipped 5 files. So now I'm going to close this, and now I'm going to look for the files. I'm going to go to My Computer, Local Disk C, Canon File Folder, SST System Software Folder, UST files, and now I have a folder called 1750 version 70.03.01. I'm going to open that, and now I'll see the different software that can be loaded. I have my boot, my decon, my main controller, the finisher, and also the optional cassette. What we need to do next is actually put the machine into download mode. And to do that, we would enter in service mode by pressing additional functions, 8 additional functions, scrolling over to where it says download in the display, and pressing OK. When we do this, the machine's going to restart, and then it's going to go right into the download mode. Once it's done, we need to connect it with a USB cable to the computer. When we connect it with USB, Windows may display a new hardware wizard saying that it found new hardware and it needs to load the driver. If it does display this, just click the cancel button. We don't actually need to load the drivers to flash it, so just hit cancel and then we'll be able to continue the load. So once it's connected, I'm going to start with the boot, and I'm going to open this boot folder, and there I'll see an executable file, which is this firmware bundled with the user support tool. So I'm going to double click on it, and it opens up and tells me I'm going to be loading boot ROM version 0055. Now I'm going to click next, and it's going to tell me to turn the machine on and connect it. And then I hit next again, and if it sees it, it'll say USB connected device. I'm going to highlight that, click next. It's going to tell me it's going to begin to start I'm going to begin to start to load it, and click the start button. Now it started, gives me a warning message, and I'm just going to hit yes to continue, and it's going to begin flashing the machine. If you look on the display of the ImageRunner while it's doing this, you'll actually see it'll say updating firmware, do not turn off. Now it says on the screen it's completed, and once it's done, the machine is actually going to restart again. So we would just click OK on here, and we've already loaded the boot software. Now that the machine finished loading the boot software, I have to put it back into download mode because it restarted itself back into normal mode. And once it's in download mode, I can load the next part of the software. I'm going to do next the decon software, so I'm going to go back to the previous folder, and I'm going to open the decon folder, and just like before, I have a exe file there. I'm going to run the exe file, and it looks just like the other one, and tells me what versions it's loading and what software it's loading. I'm going to click Next. It's going to tell me to make sure it's in download mode again. Hit Start. I'm going to select a USB connected device. Click Next, and then I'm going to hit Start and click Yes on the warning dialog box. And now it's going to begin to load just like before. And this may take a few minutes. Since it is, I'm going to pause the recording. Just as before, now the machine is restarted once the firmware is completed, and I get the little dialog box that says firmware updates complete, and the device will restart automatically. Now that we've completed loading the DC controller software, we're going to have to put the machine back into download mode again after it restarts. And now we're going to have to go back to the previous folder. Now we're going to load the main controller software. So we just double click on that folder, and we'll see another exe file. Let's double click on it, and we're going to see it's going to load the bootable and the language versions of 70.03. So we're going to click Next. It's going to tell us to make sure the machine is in download mode and connected. We're going to click Next again, and we're going to make sure to select USB connected device. Click Next, and when we get this window, we're going to click Start and click Yes on the warning window. And now it's going to begin to write the firmware just as before. And like I said, this is going to take a few minutes, so while it's doing this, I'm going to pause the recording until it completes. Once the firmware load is completed, we're going to be prompted with this little dialog box, again, just like before, that says the firmware update is complete and the device will restart. And you'll actually hear the image on the restart, and it'll restart back into normal mode. Once we've loaded the main, decon, and boot software, we can then load the finisher and cassette module firmware if the machine is equipped. If you don't have these accessories, then you don't need to load the firmware. To load those, you would do just like you did with the boot, the decon, and the main. You would return to the previous folder. You would put the machine in download mode as before. Then you would open the appropriate folder. If you need to load the finisher, you'd open the FIN folder. If you need to load the cassette, you load the cassette, you open the CST folder. And once you open them, you run the exe file just like before. And once it's completed, it'll restart. That concludes this video. I hope it's been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.